Hello everyone, welcome to In the Community. I'm Jennifer Beck. What comes to your mind when you say the word missions? Do you envision a short-term work trip somewhere in another country? Perhaps you're thinking of individuals serving long-term overseas in remote locations. Well, those are both important aspects of missions, but there's more. Mission work exists right here in our region, and an organization called Community Relief is devoted to reaching local individuals for Christ through the process of home projects. In fact, their goal is to ignite a passion to serve the Lord in whatever capacity and location He calls you. In this case, the capacity is home projects and the location right here in Northwest Ohio. Today, we're going to take an up-close look at a ministry that uses tools, sandwiches, and the gift of time as a door opener to sharing the gospel.
Ignite is a several-day mission trip in your backyard. We host it at churches in different areas. It's just a few days of the body of Christ coming together to love and serve people through service projects and home repairs.
The volunteers that were there were awesome. I needed a new garage door, and they replaced it for me. I was not able to do any of what they done for me, and it was just a blessing to be able to get that done.
The volunteers, excellent. My whole downstairs was gutted out, you know. It was to the bare wood, you know. I can go in the dining room and look in the bedroom upstairs, you know. It was proved 100%. You know, it was a God gift, you know.
A lot of people like to get in the pool and stay in the shallow end because their feet are on the ground. You know, they can walk around, they feel comfortable. It's those who jump into the deep end that they really start to feel the reward, the benefit.
With Ignite, you know, we just give you an avenue. We have people there who are skilled, and they'll be the job leaders, and they'll help coach you, and it's kind of a live acting discipleship to where people get to, you know, maybe even learn a new skill sometimes when they show up on something for a job that they've never done before.
One of the most important volunteers that we have, that we send out, is the person who sits with the homeowner while somebody like me is up on the roof trying to fix it.
They ended their job when they left with prayer, and I was even asked to lead in prayer. They brought lunch one time, and we sat there and we fellowshiped. It blessed me. It meant a lot. It uplifted me.
I don't go to church, but, you know, to be around religious people, that opens up something in me, you know, that makes me look at them, you know, and, you know, maybe this is the life I'm looking for, you know?
Community Relief provides everything you need. We try to remove any obstacle you might have for saying no. Everything's free. You get a t-shirt, we're gonna provide the materials, we have tools that you can borrow. We just wanna empower you, the volunteer, to become a missionary for 1 day, or 2 days, or 3 days, or however many days you want.
I feel like I'm really blessed to have them, because with me, with the amount of work that I needed to do, you know, I wouldn't be able to do it by myself, you know. I wouldn't be able to do it.
And I want to thank each and every one of them for what they done and for the kindness that they showed me.
There's nothing like just going and experiencing it. Being there firsthand is irreplaceable.
What I would say to someone who's interested in getting involved with community relief or volunteering is to just do it. You've already gotten that tug to go and do it. If you just put in a day, just show up one day and work, it will be the most rewarding thing that you can ever do.
So if you'd like to volunteer with us here at Community Relief during one of our Ignite events, just go to our website at communityrelief.net. There's something for everybody to get involved.
And now two of the men that you just saw on that video are here with me in the TV44 studio, Matthew Naylor and Derek Dunlap. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having us.
To talk more about Community Relief. Before we get into this year's events and how people can be involved, let's just jump back and go to the beginning. Matt, tell me how this even originated, how this became the ministry it is now.
It actually sparked way back when Katrina hit. I served with an organization called 8 Days of Hope on a disaster relief trip. And I felt like God was saying, you know, you could do this in your own town. People have disasters. They may not be a hurricane or a tornado, but in their life, this is a disaster. They have a leaky roof and they don't know how to fix it. or their husband passed away and they just don't know who to turn to and who to trust. So fast forward to 2018, finally opportunities worked and things happened where God said, now's the time. So I went to our church. I said, hey, can we try this out? And the first miracle was that they said yes. Because all my answers to how are you going to do this, how are you going to do that were, I don't know. It was just, we jumped out and we knew God told us to do it. So we bought a truck, bought some tools, and went at it.
So what did you do in that first year?
That first year, actually, I worked a lot people knew what we were trying to do. So I worked some jobs for people who called and had a specific need, and we tried to replace that. And actually, in order to pay bills, I had some people who said, I'll hire you to come do this project so that you can have an income stream and be able to do some of the other projects.
It was in the birthing stage.
Yeah,
it was
we
just
started with $0 in the bank. So we just jumped out there, and I worked for the first year or so doing a lot more of the helping people who needed help, but they were willing to pay for it, as I tried to also work on people's homes that were hearing that, hey, somebody might be able to help you with this. And then as you do that more, word of mouth spreads more and you're demanded more, hey, we need this. And God provided more funding as that time came to where I haven't done those kind of projects in a while, and I'm focused solely on people's needs.
Yeah, so Community Relief is a mission that goes out and does home projects for people. What kind of home projects are done through this mission?
Whatever they ask. And I even go into them, and we never make guarantees because we're depending on volunteers and their skill sets and their time and their availability. So when we go in and we talk with a homeowner, we can't make a guarantee. But I also never limit God. We've had excavators show up and do things that I wouldn't have thought we would have got done. And we've had people tear out an entire bathroom and put a new one in. Brand new roofs. We've had simple things like a light switch that needs replaced or a vent fan over the oven that doesn't work. I mean, anything and everything. We can get our hands dirty doing it.
Wow. Derek, let's bring you into the conversation. Tell me how you got involved with Community Relief. I know that you are really involved now, but obviously that started a few years ago differently.
Yeah, so Matt actually came to the church that I was attending. Our church brought him in, and he gave his spiel, I guess you'd say, of what Community Relief is, how we could get involved, the events that were going to happen that year. And I actually didn't get involved that year. I felt the nudge, but I don't know if I can do that. And then the next year, for an entire year, it just kind of stayed on my heart, like, hey, you need to go do something, get involved. So I signed up the next year. I went all in. I attended pretty much, I think, every day but the orientation. And the very first project I did, I was nervous. I didn't want to get too involved. I was like, I'll just go take a painting project. And the house I went to, there was an older gentleman, and he reminded me exactly of my father-in-law. So he just followed me around and critiqued like everything I was doing, but it was a fun thing because it just this is where I was supposed to be. It really got me involved. Got to eat lunch with that homeowner, and I was hooked. This was everything. Came back the next day, and Matt says, hey, you're a young guy, you can go on a roof. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And for 2 days, I did this really large roof project, and that was probably the most rewarding thing that I probably could have done that entire year. And then the next year, I went back to Lima for 2 days, and then I was like, you know what, I want to see what this is like everywhere. So I did one in Darke County and one in Van Wert, did all kinds of projects. And that's when I decided this is something that we should do back in my hometown.
So we will talk about that. Hold on in just a moment because his hometown is St. Mary's. It's a new location this year. There are going to be 4 spots that people have an opportunity to do Ignite events. But before we even get there, tell me what an Ignite event is. Walk me through the process of how it starts and finishes so when a person signs up, they know what they're going to be getting involved in.
So Ignite is a mission trip in your backyard. It's 3 days. We start with an orientation dinner, typically the Wednesday night before we actually start working, so people can come in and know how to pick a job, what a job looks like, all those particulars. How do you get tools? How do you get the supplies? All that stuff. But this is a free mission trip in your backyard. We take care of everything. We take care of all the materials. We've got tool trailers. We do invite people to bring their own tools if they have them, if they're comfortable with that. But each day, we're going to start at 7 o'clock in the morning with a breakfast, a time of devotion, a time of worship. any announcements that need to happen that day. And then we normally launch the volunteers out roughly around 8 o'clock. They're going out to the job sites, and they're working on whatever they felt they needed to work on. We don't tell people where they have to work. We show them opportunities, and they get to choose where they get to work. So if they like roofing, they get to do roofing. If they don't like roofing, they don't have to do roofing. It's that sort of thing. But then around noon, we actually deliver lunches to the job sites for the homeowners, for the volunteers, for any neighbors that are hanging around. We just want people to fellowship with the people they're serving. Because really, the goal is the person, not the project. The project is the avenue to the person. And that's where I tell people that say, I don't even know what a hammer looks like. That's great. I need you. Because a person like me is tunnel visioned, and I think, I got to get the project done. And I forget about the homeowner. So I need the other part of Christ's body that loves the homeowner, who couldn't care less about the project, but loves the homeowner, who sits there and chats with the homeowner and builds a relationship that lasts longer than 3 days.
Yeah. Wow. So who do you get who comes to these things? You hear about construction projects, you think construction people, but who signs up for Ignite events?
Everybody. We have families show up. We have kids get involved. I love to see that. I took my kids on missions trips, some of those disaster relief, and that's what I wanted, was a ministry where we could get the entire family involved. We do need skilled people. That is one area where we always could use more.
Yeah.
Because we need those kind of people, not necessarily come to even do the project, but to teach the people who are there that are willing to learn how to love this person in a very tangible way. I remember one of the first years, somebody from St. Mary's was doing a roof project, and there was a couple of tween girls that showed up with their mom, and they're like, can we get on a roof? By the end of that day, they were using the nail gun, and they had a blast.
Wow. It
was safe. It wasn't a high roof or anything like that, but they got to do something that they never would have thought about prior to coming there, and they got to love somebody in a way that made a huge difference.
Wow. Derek, share with some things you also observed in your times with these events.
Yeah, we do the project, but I think lunch is one of the best times because like last year we were at a home and the homeowner didn't know that we were going to feed them, like provide lunch for them. And when we told them they can come eat with us, we had food for them, that they were a little hesitant. But then they finally sat down, but they only grabbed like a sandwich. And then we're like, no, you get everything. And then they were just blown away with that. And then usually there's a little bit more than just what you need to eat. So any leftovers we left with them, which was great for them because, they weren't quite sure what they were going to eat for dinner, and that just helped make that a little easier for them. So you get to spend time, you get to have conversations. I think every lunch that I've had, I've learned something new of someone that's a little bit older than me, they've kind of done something in their life that I'm currently going through, whether that's with kids or in marriage and with work and stuff. So it's never been a dull moment there.
Wow, wonderful. Any other thoughts to add to that?
Well, I mean, in the vein of food, we also have a dinner every night we start out with the orientation dinner on Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, we have dinners. We encourage our volunteers to invite the homeowners and their families back to dinner because we love to share testimonies. When the body of Christ gathers together and we hear from each other and encourage one another through those testimonies, and when the homeowners stand up and say, I can't believe what happened today.
Wow.
It encourages all those that are there, I can come one more day. I can do one more time. That's okay, It is a phenomenal time.
I love the whole concept of community relief in Ignite because you say it's a mission trip in your backyard. Nothing against the international mission trips. They have value. They're so important, but we put so much focus on that. And yet here it is, our own neighbors who need the hands and feet of Jesus right there. And this is what you guys are offering to individuals through this.
I've always told people it's not an either or. It's a both and.
Yeah. Yeah.
We both need to go and we both need to stay. And I even have a son who's now 21 and he's serving with community relief, but most of his serving is rapid response disaster relief. He just got back from Louisiana from the ice storms. Wow. So we're trying to have that avenue even in community relief through email connections with people that, hey, if anybody wants to go, he's going and you guys can jump on board with him. So it is a both and.
That's great. That's really great. So let's talk about what's coming up this year for Ignite. You can go to communityrelief.net, is that right?
Yep.
Communityrelief.net to see all the information. And there are 4 specific weeks. They're not full weeks, like you said, just a few days where these events will be taking place. And let's go ahead and start with the first one, which is Lima.
Lima is first. It's typically the first weekend in June. Again, we start on a Wednesday night with an orientation dinner, and then it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I believe the dates are the 4th through the 6th, somewhere in there. But that one, we love that every year. This is now our 7th time doing it here in Lima. So it is, every year's different. It's not that every year grows, it grows and ebbs and flows. But we encourage people, you would take a time off work to go overseas on a trip, or to go out of the country or whatever. Consider taking a couple days off and serving in your own hometown and see if that doesn't change you.
That's neat, yeah. And so Derek, the next one then is St. Mary's.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the date, and let's talk about how St. Mary's even came to be a project.
So June 18th through the 20th is when we'll do the event. We'll do an orientation dinner as well on the 17th. But it really just started with conversations. I've had a pull to do something in our community. For a while, we did it when I was playing sports in high school, and I really got an enjoyment out of that. And then it kind of faded when I got older and got busy with things, and then it just got reignited a little bit when I got to do Ignite. And then I started having conversations with people in the community and people at our church on like, hey, well, how do we do this here? And this person's interested in doing it. They might get it started, and then this person might do it, and this person, and it finally just became to the point where I was at dinner with Matt and this other individual, and he just said, "Hey, Derek's interested in doing this in St. Mary's." And I was like, "Well, I can't back down now." So that kind of just nudged me and kind of took off from there.
That's great. So are you in the process of like compiling the St. Mary's projects right now? Is that probably doesn't take much to find need? Yeah,
so we have forms. You can when you go to the website, you can sign up to volunteer for St. Mary's. You can also sign up to have a project. So if you have a need, and we have people that are willing to help already, we just need people to say, yeah, please come help. So. All
right, and then we'll move down I-75, well, actually not I-75, down basically down south of St. Mary's, that direction toward Darke County, and that'll be the next one.
Yep, and last year was the first year in Darke County. We had another gentleman, his name is BJ Paulus, that stepped up and said, hey, I want to do this in my town, and that's really all I need to hear, and I'm going to come in and support them. We're going to give them the tools, the trailer, everything that we can. I'm going to stand beside them and watch them love and serve their community.
Yeah.
And to the point of the website, it's really easy to sign up or say I have a need, because you go there and the first thing you see is a few buttons, and one says I need help and the other one says I can help.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to get involved, but that's just the best way in any of these communities for somebody to reach out and say, hey, I have a need. Just start with that I need help button. Submit that form. We'll get back with you.
Communityrelief.net is the website again for that. And then finally, the 4th event, and this one's been going for a few years.
This will be the 6th year in Van Wert, and we partner with Love Inc. in Van Wert. They help compile all the projects and stuff that they sort through those that are in need. And again, we come in and kind of just direct traffic and help run the event so that that community can love its community.
Wonderful. Now, what if somebody says, I really want to do this, but I can't do all the days? How do they set up for that?
It's fine. When you say you can help, you tell us when you can serve. And even if you can't serve for a full day, just show up. We're going to plug you in somewhere, somehow. We have people, I've seen people just show up right around lunchtime, thankfully, because we need help delivering lunches to the job sites. So they say, I've only got an hour. Perfect. God supplies what we need in the moment we need it. And it's been phenomenal to watch every year.
Wow, that is really neat. Any testimonies you can, I just threw this to them, they weren't prepared. Anything you can think of people you've encountered you've just seen lives change through this?
There's one story that I share often, and it comes out of Van Wert, and it was the first year we did the Van Wert Ignite. A gentleman needed help tearing down an old shed. And a guy showed up with 3 young rambunctious boys and said, That's perfect. They love to destroy stuff. So they spent a couple days tearing a shed down by hand and hauling it out of the backyard. And through that, they built a little bit of a relationship with Kevin. And they asked him to go to church. And he said, I think my mom would want me. And he's an older gentleman. I don't remember his age, but he's like, I think my mom would want me to do that. So he did. And what I love to share about this particular event is this is the model for what we hope happens in every Ignite event. The church didn't just stop with that 3-day event. The church rallied around this new individual. He couldn't drive because of diabetes, but they made sure he was at every meeting that church had. And over the next year or two, even his friends are like, something's different about you, Kevin. He said, it must be God. So he went from somebody who needed the gospel to somebody who was able to share the gospel because somebody tore down his shed. See, the shed's the avenue to the relationship. And if the churches or the groups that serve these homeowners continue that relationship, you have no idea what kind of an impact you can have. This gentleman actually passed away from his diabetes a few years later, but his eternity was changed. Again, because somebody tore down his shed.
Wow. Wow. And think about how much time he probably spent looking at that shed, knowing this is a problem, I don't know how to take care of it, I am stuck, this is bad, I'm going to get fined for this is a problem. And then yet, a man and some kids came in and they represented Jesus through that project.
Right. It's very similar to Dwight, who was on the video. They just saw, he didn't know where to turn to or who to turn to in that time. He just had no idea. And then we showed up, and all of a sudden, the mountain that was unclimbable becomes, I can see the top.
Wow.
And he's even done more on his own since we've helped him.
And just to remind people again, we mentioned it a few times, but you don't have to be a construction person to be involved in this, right?
Right.
You
Nope.
don't.
Nope.
No.
I would say most people are not. The vast majority of our volunteers are not construction people. They're moms and kids,
Yeah.
or weekend warriors, guys that just do it on the weekend.
And the ability to have someone even just sit there with that homeowner and just create a relationship. It's just great.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Any final things that you guys would like to share other than preparing for a great week, and it's going to be a great summer, basically. It's not a great week, it's a great summer.
It's going to be fast-paced for a couple months. It'll be fun. But I just encourage everybody, get involved.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a moment to come see, what are these people like? What's this crazy thing I hear about like? Just get involved. That's the best way to experience it. I think even BJ said it on the video. Like, there's nothing like coming out and experiencing it.
CommunityRelief.net is the address for you to look at online. Of course, as always, you can contact us here at TV44 if you have questions, and we will connect you with them and make sure that all of the information you need to know you have. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much, not only for being here, but for just saying yes to God to do this.
Thank you for the opportunity to
Thank
share. We just love sharing the information about what God's doing.
Yeah, thank you so very much. Pray about volunteering with this year's Ignite mission opportunities. 1 day, 2 days, a half a day, or the entire Ignite session. You're welcome to whatever works for your schedule. Remember, experience is not necessary. What is necessary is a love for Christ and a desire to share His goodness with others. Here's one more look at this summer's Ignite schedule. June 4th through 6th in Lima, June 18th through 20th in St. Mary's, July 16th through 18th in Darke County, and July 30th through August 1st in Van Wert. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of In the Community. I'm Jennifer Beck. Remember, God has a purpose for you right at this very moment, and it just might be showing love and kindness to your neighbor.